Hello, welcome to this series of videos in which I'm going to hopefully demystify artificial intelligence, demystify AI. So if we want to demystify AI, well, we have to ask ourselves, what is AI? In a nutshell, AI is, trying to do systems that are able to mimic the human brain. And so the first natural question is, well, what is the human brain doing? Very, very difficult question, but I'm going to do with you a little game and ask you to participate to this game to show you, exemplify two things, important things that the human brain is doing and that, of course, we can try to mimic. So the game works as follows. You will see image on the screen, and on each image there will be a certain number of dots. So for example, on this one you can see there are 3 dots, and I'm going to go from one image to another. What I ask you is to raise your hand immediately when you know the number of dots which are on the image. So in this case you see that there are 3 dots, you raise your hand, and I ask you to really do the movement and raise your hand. So what about this one? Well, quite easy. And this one? I'm sure you raise your hand quite rapidly. What about this one? Okay, here there are 7 dots. And what about this one now? I can see that it takes a little more time to see that there are 12 dots. And what about this one? Go ahead if it's not done. Okay, so there are 24. And you have seen, by the way, that it takes much more time after a certain number of dots, let's say after 7 or 8, to see and to be able to know the number of dots. And that's because in the first case, when there are 3 or 1 or 5, you don't count, you just see, and immediately you recognize the number of dots. While when there are more dots, let's say 7 or 8 or more, you have to go in another mode of your brain and you start counting, right? In one case, you just recognize, and in the second case, you have to count. Maybe you have a specific strategy, maybe you group the dots or whatever, but you start in a way, it's a reasoning. You add the reasoning to the process. And so that's what I wanted to show. With your brain, you are able to do, at first level, 2 things. You can recognize my voice, you can recognize a face very rapidly, and you can also reason. And you probably have had the feeling that it's different when you recognize and when you reason. So just for the fun, I'm going to show you another number of dots, and please try to find the number. So here it is. Okay, how many are there? Well, the good answer is 17. And it took you probably a little while, so you had to launch the reasoning process for being able to do that. You counted the dots. And what happened, I have a bad news for you, is that you're not as smart as a crow. Because, crows, until 17, they're able to instantly recognize. Reality is that after 17, they are not able to count. But on the reasoning part, they are better than us. So, just a little game. So, sometimes we think we are at the top of everything. This is not completely the case. But, well, if I go back to what I was saying, the goal is to mimic the human brain, right? And what we have seen is that the human brain can do recognition and it can do reasoning. And what is the link with AI? Well, that is AI today at 99%. What it's doing is only recognition. Neural networks, machine learning, almost all of machine learning, but also ChatGPT, generative AI, it's based on, mimicking the part of the brain that is recognizing, not reasoning. And sometimes what I say is that, well, what we are trying to do today, or doing sometimes, is just trying to mimic the brain of a crow, the brain of a bird, not a brain of a human, because for that we would need to be able to at the same time recognize and reason what we do. And usually we use it together. When you listen to me, hopefully you recognize the words that I say, and of course you don't have to think for that, but also you take the information I gather and I bring to you, and you put it together and you make the link with other things in your brain, and that's the reasoning part, and you are doing both at the same time. Well, that's what I wanted to say in this first video, and I hope you enjoyed it, and maybe it clarifies a little bit something about what AI is. And the next video will be about, well, is there AI somewhere that is able to mimic reasoning? Thank you very much.